It's a redo, and it's a good do for you. Let's see what we're reviewing now. Welcome back to the McGolf Fitting Room. Jim McCleary, and this is Wilson D9 Part 2. All right. I recently released the D9 iron, and what happened was just about the time I was hitting the send button, they moved the embargo date back. And what they mean by embargo date is that we're not really allowed to talk, show, or anything, that kind of stuff, until that particular date. And they take a lot of faith, they being every OEM company, into the fact that you will, that you won't do that, right? And so you really have to, be very, very mindful, be very, very careful of that. And Wilson has taken upon themselves to trust me in that matter. So I took the thing down, and now we're going to start it all over again. Now, what it's going to be, it was only for 3 days, but hey, it was what they want, so that's what we're going to do. Little do they know that I actually hold a regular security clearance, so I don't know about that. Anyhow, so in addition to stopping the confusion, I wanted to explain that. And I wanted to add in the do part. Well, we're going to go in, and this is the prelude to the irons, but we also did a hybrid. All right, a hybrid. Now, I have to say I am quite surprised at the hybrid. Wilson has been, a contender, if not a leader, in the iron group. They've always been trying to break through that glass ceiling in hybrids and woods, right? And sometimes they come really, really close, and then just sometimes it just falls a little short. And each year they've been getting better and better and better. Again, John Pergandy, the head of their R&D, has come up with this particular style. And I have to say, sitting in the bag, because we always, you always judge by the quality of the coolness of it looking in your bag, and this rate's really, really high. This is a really neat blend of like a navy blue / gray set up with a modern setup. Now, how do they come to this? Well, the new marketing strategy is going to be intelligent design, using a lot of computing power to make these small tweaks from previous models in order to be better. Okay, fine, that works for me. As long as we're making an improvement, that's where I want to go. So what did we do to make an improvement? Well, if in the top of this, right, in the top of this is they've removed 5 more grams. And again, in all the engineering thing, every time you remove weight, where's it go? Into the best place possible. But what does that mean? So for each particular club, it's going to go into a different place, but that's 5 grams. The other thing is on the face of this guy is 455 Carpenter steel. Now, in of itself, it's really, really hard, right? And it makes for really good hybrid faces. But what they've also done, and the first time in their hybrid line, is they've started out into the middle. They started out in the middle and then thinned it as they got out. So they get a little bit more rebound, right? A little more rebound. That's something that we want to know about. So in between, so with all these different factors that have gone into it, they've also thrown in the tin size silver, okay? The tin size silver, and this one happens to be a 60 grammer. And then it will also be topped off with the Lamkin Wilson shielded tour-like grip, okay? Now, the other thing you have to know about this is, and like in most cases that you would see them being kind of the same, is that the head of this will change shape as it goes up the group in order to be more forgiving. All right, so more forgiving. So we like that as well. So the real question is, and that's the real quick lowdown of this in order to add on to the irons, right? Now, this is going to be surprisingly short. And what we want to do is, well, we want to hit it. And we're going to see how that went. Okay, so we hit it, and we hit it pretty good, right? This is a 22 degree, right? This is a 22 degree, which lies right around with most of the other 4-irons. Now, the one thing I'm really not impressed with is the fact that, you know, this lies in the distance category, D9, distance, right? And that's the way it's always going to be. And when people make distance clubs, they lengthen them. They make the length long. And I'm not a fan of that, because the technology should be enough to set itself apart. If you can set yourself apart, then you should be able to make them the right length, and they're still going to go far. You don't need to make them longer. And so what you're seeing in those numbers that you just saw, I was choking down nearly 3/4 of an inch. That should say something. Boom. So not only did they hit well, they hit far, right? My gamer at this particular is a 23, so it's a degree less, and it outperformed it easily by, well, just to kind of give you the idea, my gamer at this level is at my 200-yard club, which is starting to lose ground to the rest of them. And this one just basically blew it out of the water. Now, is that to say something hasn't changed? Yeah, maybe so, but it's a competitor with something that had a lot of tech in it. So there's something to consider. And it would make a great addition to the top end of the set of the irons that you're just getting ready to see. So when you're looking at this and you're watching the rest of this, really, really need to consider the hybrid at the top end of the set. So you get 18, 22, you know, and all these other, these lofts, that the right-handed side gets all kinds. The lefties, we get 2 or 3. So, I mean, really, really consider this. Also, really consider getting fit when you do this. That way you have an outstanding set. All right, so the D9, from the hybrid point of view, excellent look in the bag. Well done, Wilson. You did really, really well. Looks good at address, looks good in the bag. It feels really good using the tin size silver. We saw that it worked very, very well. And once you get it fit and you get it cut to your length and you get your right numbers in there, you are going to have one really, really good set. Very impressed with the Wilson D9 Hybrid. So now it's going to take over and we're going to see the iron. So part 2. Thank you guys. Let's go watch. If you like hitting your clubs further, this is something to watch. Welcome back to the Mick Golf Shop. Jim McCleary in the Mick Golf Fitting Room, and we're here to review a new distance iron, and it is the Wilson D9. The Wilson D9. The Wilson D9 is sporting some seriously new cosmetics, right? Just the sheer look of it is sleeker and more modern. And again, big time thumbs up to John Pregande and the rest of the research and development crew, or the design crew, whatever we want to call them, but they're doing a heck of a good job, whatever it is. And they have come out with something that just looks really tough in the bag. All right, so the Wilson D9 is replacing the Wilson D7. And so what have we done to make it better, right? That's always the key. What do you do to make it better? Well, in this particular instance, Wilson is using a large amount of computers to help with simulations and drawing in order to maximize the forgiveness across the face. So that's a big thing. I think you're going to see that as a kind of a theme going across many companies, that the computers are helping them make them better now. And Wilson's no different. It's a huge company, right? So what have they done differently? Well, let's start with the bottom of the club first, and we'll work our way to the top. On the bottom, of course, it has the signature wide sole. Now let's talk about the wide sole. I like the wide sole for those guys that are thumpers. And that means guys that are big divot takers, that you guys are really going to like this. Particularly if you go straight up. I mean, you're probably a guy with your swing. If you're a guy that does that quite a bit, you're going to like that. It has what I would call a large amount of offset on it. Again, to help the guy that's not, or the gal, that to bring the club around, right? And then just to help square it up at impact. Now, the other part of this is that on the bottom of this sole, which I think really works well, by the way, are the power holes, all right? The power holes. Now the power holes on this one, you know, they've had power holes for the last 3 generations of these golf clubs, and they've all moved around the numbers, the widths, the lengths, in order to maximize the flex of the face. Now what I've noticed on this one in comparison to the others is that the holes are so much closer towards the face. And that might very well aid in more flexing, because more flexing means more rebound means more speed means more distance, okay? That's how that cookie crumbles. Now, and the differences, the other difference between the D9 and the D7 is it's also a larger cavity, all right? This area right here. The larger cavity is gives you, they say, the largest unsupported face in their record. Now, what is that? That we're talking about here. And what they mean is it supported back here? Underneath the bottom here, or at the bottom, you're always going to have the sole, and it's always going to be part of the golf club. And this is what's going to drive the center of gravity. And if you can tell in there, there's a lot of sole. We talked about the width. There's a lot of weight down in this area. It's going to drive the center of gravity down. Why is that? Because as the clubs get stronger, you want the launch to look the right way. Now, all that weight being down in here, starting from right about here and going all the way around, is the cavity, meaning that that's all there is, right? There's a badge in the back, and then the face is right up on here. So again, adding more towards the flex of the face, and that's really what that's about. So we have low center of gravity, really strong loss, lots of offset, wider sole, more flex in the face, and again, distance clubs. So what do we do when we have distance clubs? Well, we make them stronger, and that's why the center of gravity, and that you get your launch angle. Because it's stronger, it normally doesn't spin as much. Now there's the real trick, right? You want to get it up in the air, so what we're trading off is launch angle for spin rates in order for them to come down and through. That's one of the things. Now, this is going to come with 2 different shafts in it. One is the KBS Max, and the KBS Max is going to come in an A, R, and an S, and it's an 80-gram steel shaft. It has a super long tip section, and the super long tip section allows for a little more kick, a little more height, a little more air, a little more carry. That's the other one. The other one is the Mitsubishi Tensai Silver. And the Tensai Silver actually is a really nice graphite shaft, and it's in that same category, but I think it's actually a bit firmer, if you ask me. I like the way that it feels. I like the way that it goes through a ball. I think it does a very, very good job. You know, as everything else, we've got to test it and see whether or not we're not being misled. So I went over and I measured them. What did I get when I measured them? Well, when I measured them, now we're talking about a 6-iron, okay, 6-iron. So it was 38 inches long, which is a ½ inch over standard in my book. It was 25 degrees in loft, which is extraordinarily strong, basically a 5. But that's the way that they're making them, right? The lie angle was 60. The swing weight was D1. Now, the flex on these are going to be ambiguous because of the type of shaft that's in there in either case. So we're just going to assume that the R is the R, the S is the S, and so on. Because the way that the Max is made, that it would tend to be more flexible because of the butt section, where the other one would not. And that's probably the reason why I like it better. Now, what are they supposed to be? Well, the length is supposed to be 38 inches. The loft angle is supposed to be 25. The swing weight, I believe, is to be D0. I have yet to see that particular spec, or yeah, D0. And so one swing weight, I'll take that all day long. And I believe the lie angle is right on the mark as well. So this is a true to form club. Basically, that's what I'm driving at, a true to form club. So now that we know all the ins and outs, oh, and the last bit is we're going to finish it off with a traditional lambkin grip. All right, it's a lambkin grip that they got the Wilson Staff Shield on both sides, so you can't, if you're going logo down, too bad. And that's the way. So we're going to have basically their version of a tour velvet, and that's the way that's going to be through that. Now, we're going to test the hybrid, and the driver is coming, so we'll see those in a later video. Let's go see how they hit. So as you see, that's not a club to be trifled with, right? I mean, we did see the difference in a couple of shafts. I thought I would like the 10 size silver because I was gravitating towards a lighter club, but no, apparently it's that KBS Max 80 that was putting it together for me. And not only am I almost a full club longer, but I'm a little tighter in my dispersion. So that's a heck of a deal. Guys, so now here's a couple of things. You know, we already talked about what it does and who it's kind of made for and how it's spec'd out and how it hit. Now, here's who I would recommend that for. You know, they're going to say this is for a beginning golfer. They're going to say this is for an older golfer. They're, you know, all these different things because of all of a single attribute that the club has. All right, and that would not be fair to categorize this particular club into one particular category based on the fact that I'm a fitter. If it works, right? That's the idea here. Now, number one, the one thing I'll give you the one thing I don't like about this club is its extra length. Yeah, you get it longer, you hit it further. No, that's not it at all. The right length's the right length, and typically that's what we do in these distance clubs is we try to make them longer so you can generate a little bit more club head speed in that one shot that you remember. But I'm not here about that. All these shots that you just saw me hit were with I was choking down 1/2 inch. So, you know, what does that say? It tells you it works. That's the whole idea. It works without that extra length. So that's a good thing. So it takes us to the good stuff. The good stuff is there's a lot of room to miss on this guy. Because of the extra size of this club, there's a whole lot of room on this club. And of course, you know, I didn't hit them all perfect and they still went out there. When I'm cranking a 6-iron well over 200 yards landing, that's pretty stout. It'd almost be like that's a club I could put in my bag in place of a normal 5-iron. You know, and that's not far reaching at all, right? Now, the other part is that other than it's very forgiving, it's very strong, right? It's very, very, very strong. And that means that it's going to go far. So if distance is your only concern, then this is certainly a club for you. Now, you saw me, I was able to fade them just like anybody else. However, I straightened it out a truckload better when I had when I had the heavier shaft. And then that puts me into the center. However, that whole offset is to help you get the club closed. The whole sole area is to help you, not dig in and hurt things that you get in there. The only other part I would add into is make sure the grip is just right. When I think about these clubs, I think about those big ginormous grips that a guy could put on there and swing and be super duper comfortable with them and just kill it. All right. However, maybe not so much if that's not for you. But if your hands hurt, there you go. That would be a way to go. So there's a lot of room for a lot of different places, for a lot of different things for this club to fit into. And not only is that, but it's in a family, right? There's hybrids, fairway woods, and a driver. That's all coming soon. So again, ball go far, ball go straight, and the feel on this thing is pretty solid. I thought it was going to be really, really, hard, and it wasn't. It was actually quite soft. Not as comparable as I would say a Forge club, but when you get into the middle of it, yeah, it feels pretty doggone good. So, there's nothing to be afraid of. If you're all out there about wanting to put them by your buddies, this might be a club. Let's say you're getting older and you want to regain some distance. This could be that club. You're having a problem with maybe a fade and you don't really like all that stuff. Yeah, this could be that club. Okay, there's a lot of potential in these particular clubs and definitely worth checking out. So take a look at them. They're good looking in the bag. They perform well on the monitors because right now I'm looking at about 3 inches of snow, and I don't see where this is a bad club at all. Just to make sure, as always, you want to be fit so you have the right specs so that you can enjoy the game all year long. And as always, guys, let your scores go low.